The Odd Angel. One day, when I was living in America, I was walking near a park and saw a very sad-looking man sitting down. He was very dirty. His hair looked like it hadn't been washed in months. His clothes looked very old and smelled bad. One of his arms was in a sling because it looked like his arm had been broken or terribly hurt. And next to him was a big bottle of wine. He had been drinking and drinking so much alcohol. It was only 10 a.m. in the morning, and he was drunk. But the worst thing of all was his unhappy face. He was one of the saddest looking people I've ever seen. He was a lonely man, and I walked up to him. He didn't even look up at me. "Hello? Hello?" I said to the man. "Huh?" he said, a little surprised to see me there. "What do you want?" "Well, can I help you? Can I do something?" I offered. He began to tell me about his life, how he was once a bus driver, how he had lost his job. He had no family, no friends. Then he had fallen and hurt his knee. He had no money. He had nowhere to go. He hadn't had any good food to eat in weeks. He was unhappy, and he knew he drank too much alcohol. But he said, "Well, I just can't help it." And so he talked to me, and I listened to him. And that went on for a long time. And he said he wanted to quit drinking, and I encouraged him. And I said, "You can quit drinking. You must stop drinking." And he said, "Yes, I will," and he threw down his bottle. I put my arm around his shoulders and asked him if I could pray for his life. And he said, "Oh, yes." So I held his weak, bony shoulders and prayed for God to love him, to make his life like new. I asked God to heal his broken arm. But most of all, I asked God to do a miracle, to heal his broken heart, to do something for all the pain, all the sadness that I could see in his eyes. Well, suddenly he began to smile, and he looked almost happy. I gave him all the money I had, and I told him to get some new clothes and to have a good meal to eat. I can't take your money," he said. "Well, of course you can. You need it more than I do," I said. And he smiled, and he finally took the money. "I won't spend it on alcohol, I promise," he said. Well, I believed the man. And after a little more time, we sat and we laughed, and then it was finally time for me to go. And it was good talking to him, but it was getting late. And so I stood up and I began walking away, and he smiled and he waved goodbye. And I looked back at him and smiled at him. But then suddenly he yelled at me, and he said to me in his strong voice, "Come back! Come back here! You come back here!" Well, I turned around and looked at him. "What is it?" I asked. "What do you want?" I know the truth. I know who you really are, he said, smiling. What? What are you talking about? I asked, thinking maybe he's drunk. You can't fool me. I know who you really are, he repeated. You're an angel. I laughed and I laughed, and he seemed really upset at my laughing. I'd never had anyone call me an angel before. I'm not an angel, I said to him. And he looked at me, and he pointed at me again, and he said, yes, you are an angel. Well, have you ever seen an Asian angel like me? I asked. Well, no, I never have, he said, but you can't fool me. I know you must be an angel, maybe an odd angel, but still, you're definitely an angel. Well, what makes you so sure? I asked. How do you know? Well, I thought maybe that he would tell me that he thought I was an angel because I gave him all my money, or because he no longer wanted to drink alcohol and threw away his bottles, or maybe because I prayed for him and he felt better about his life. And then he said, I know that you're an angel because you're the only person who has touched me in 1 year. And he said this, and he smiled brightly. Well, there it was. What he needed was something I didn't realize. Not money, not even prayer. He didn't even need a new job. He didn't even need a miracle cure. What he needed was someone to just put his arm around him and give him a little touch of love.